Today is Franklin Roosevelt's 143rd birthday. Here are 10 facts about the World War II leader. For our first fact, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the president we're talking about, if you couldn't read the title or watch the first 10 seconds of the video, had polio, which is a disease that infects mobility. And he actually used a wheelchair for most of his presidency. And when he was giving speeches, most of the time, it was with leg braces because he couldn't stand because his legs didn't work. Most people have hobbies. In fact, I'm pursuing mine right now, which is talking to you guys, I guess. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, obviously, well, he had one, and it was collecting stamps. He had a stamp collection that he'd look at every night before bed. Yeah, imagine going to bed knowing that Hitler was on the rise, but you gotta look at your stamp collection. When Roosevelt died in April 1945 while posing for a portrait in Atlanta, it was the only presidential death between January 5th, 1933 and November 22nd, 1963. Over 30 years with only one presidential death. In 1951, there was a constitutional amendment added to, the Constitution, which limited presidents at 2 terms. And that was because of Franklin Roosevelt, who decided to serve, 3 and a partial one. This is because with his third election being in 1940, after World War II had started, he felt that America needed some stability, some political stability, while in a critical time, such as, World War II. When FDR married his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt, no last name change was needed. That's because Eleanor's maiden name was Roosevelt, because Eleanor and Franklin were 6th cousins. While it's not uncommon for a president to serve with at least 2, or at most 2 vice presidents, most recently Richard Nixon, serving with Spiro Agnew and Gerald Ford, Franklin Roosevelt is the only one to have 3. John Nance Garner for his first 8 years, who didn't want to run for re-election. In fact, he challenged Roosevelt for the presidential nomination in 1940 because, he didn't like Roosevelt breaking the 2-term tradition. Henry Wallace in 1940, who was taken off the ticket in 1944 because the Democratic Party thought he was too radical. And Harry Truman for 82 days. Good on you, Harry. When it came to politics, Roosevelt was not a loser. He won practically every election he competed in. He lost 1 primary election and only 1 general election, which was the 1920 vice presidential election to Calvin Coolidge, who is my favorite president. Right now, most of us probably know that Franklin Roosevelt and Theodore Roosevelt were 5th cousins. However, Franklin was 5th cousins or more, or 8th cousins or more, with more presidents than any other president, which is interesting. Hopefully he didn't marry any of them. Roosevelt presidents liked setting history when it came to aviation. Theodore was the first president to fly in a plane, while not serving as president, of course, and Franklin was the first one to be in a plane while serving. Of course, he went on one quite a bit, meeting with the Allied leader. It would not be weird of you to associate the Manhattan Project with President Harry Truman because, he was the one who actually dropped the bombs. However, the Manhattan Project didn't just start under Truman, it started under Roosevelt. And Roosevelt, of course, he knew about it. But you know who didn't know about it? Under his 82 days as vice president, Harry Truman. That's because Roosevelt wanted to be very hush-hush. You couldn't even tell his own vice president. Happy birthday, I guess, to Franklin Roosevelt. 143 years young. Keep going strong, Franklin. Yeah.